My clock says 29.
It's 29.
Yeah.
Mine also.
I can see again, so I'm feeling more comfortable.
Good.
Did you?
I did. We're actually live at the moment.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Well, that clock says it's 6:30.
I'm going by this clock.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Rowdy staff. Can we all rise and pledge allegiance, please? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Judy Drake. Here. Lori Hemmings.
Here.
Christine Montag.
Here.
Joseph Wetmore.
Here.
Ruth Groff.
Okay, we're going to start off with a public hearing for the proposed local law 4 of 2024 to amend the town code to add a new chapter 80 entitled Department of Public Works. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
This is where I'm supposed to entertain everybody for a minute while we wait. Anybody have any questions or thoughts on the new local law? I guess we're all happy with it, and I'm not seeing anybody in the audience who wants to come forward, so.
It's been in the works for a while.
It has been. And I really appreciate all the work that everybody's done on it. I know there's been a lot of work behind the scenes to hammer that together. You got a minute yet?
Oh, you say no?
I say no.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you do.
Okay. I guess we'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you.
Christine, was that you?
Who's making?
Oh. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Now we've got a resolution to adopt the local law 4 of 2024 to amend the town code to add new chapter 80 entitled Department of Public Works. Do I have a resolution?
So moved.
Second?
Second it.
Thank you.
Okay, was it you, Lori?
Second.
I can't tell the difference between the two of us.
Just assume I never talk.
Well, I know.
You got to be quicker. Is this a roll
Is
call?
there any discussion?
Is there any discussion? I assumed there would have been discussion already. You want to do, is it a roll call? Okay.
Judy Drake.
Aye.
Lori Hemmings.
Aye.
Christine Montag.
Aye.
Joseph Wetmore.
Aye. Now we're on to privilege of the floor. Is there anybody who wants to speak at privilege of the floor? I'm not seeing many hands, so we're going to move on to department reports. Mike, you're up first.
We'd like to keep you guessing.
Good evening, everybody. My report's in the packet, I can go through it. I've been working on sign maintenance, cutting branches and brush away from certain signs you can see around town. Along with the brush and tree maintenance around town within the town's right of way. Water and sewer maintenance, around town. Actually, we've added a little bit more to this from what you see here. Our crews work to replace an 8-inch break on East Lake Road. The last 2 days, we chased a water main breakdown on East Lake. I know that Dave is familiar with that area, and so is Guy. It's pretty much straight rock. Ended up being a service line break underneath the road. Thank goodness that the contractor that installed that sleeved the pipe, which made our job a little bit easier. At the same time, we were servicing our sewer lift stations. So anyhow, good report, health report anyhow with the lift stations. Thank you to the board for allocating money for the new pump at Oakwood. That's been installed. Road maintenance, we did some shimming on some certain roads, just to make it through the winters so plows don't catch. Office work, what I intended basically, and there's some others I didn't add in there, but continue to work with T.G. Miller. I just want to highlight that on various projects. And we're in the process of also looking at what we want to replace first for water mains next year. We have about 500 sections, but we've narrowed it down to one that we're going to start with. And we've been doing the research, the outreach to the municipality where the road is, or the water main is on. That started probably late summer. Winter maintenance, the crews have been fantastic. It's a struggle getting parts these days. Everything's 2 weeks, but 2 weeks turns into 2 months, 2 months turns into 6, so on and so forth. But we're in good shape. The trucks are all ready. All 13 trucks are ready to go out the door. I want to add to that the salt has been ordered to spend the ARPA money that the board wanted. I think we're around 160-some thousand with interest. So around 2,449 tons of salt is what I ordered. Hoping to have it. But that will get that money spent by the end of the year, which is what our obligation is, right? Winter maintenance. The new highway barn. We're on to the interior design, really, neutral colors, floors, walls, locker rooms, things of that nature. I've been working with John on that, keeping him informed. I had another meeting today with Ruth on that and part of the interior team. More to share with John. Floors, it's what they picked out is going to be well suited for a lot of the crews coming in and out. It's going to be something that's going to last. Not wear out. One of the things I really liked within the office space is called tiled carpet. So everyone knows who sits with that and seated at an office and you have carpet, you're definitely going to wear out the carpet, right? We can take out sections and replace it, so that was pretty cool. And redo the whole floor. I believe that's everything.
Thank you, and I also want to thank you for the help you've been on the Yellow Barn project. I know you've been working on that as well.
Yep, that information got sent out tonight, actually.
Yes.
Talked to Holly again.
Yep, I saw that. Thank you. Do any board members have any questions? Comments? Well, thank you, and I hope you don't have to go out tomorrow night.
But we're ready.
Yep, I know you are. Okay, so Pat's not here, so John, you're up next.
Thank you. Just a couple of minor projects at the planning board, a 3-lot minor subdivision at 172 Benson. We had a site plan modification on Verizon. They're just doing some modifications to an already approved plan. At zoning board level, we're still reviewing the use variance for Delaware River Solar. This is just ongoing. It's kind of a complex project. Judy's smiling over there regarding the public use variance criteria. We we don't want to get too in-depth on that one, but if anybody has any questions about that, please direct them to Guy.
I think that's the most complex ZBA case we've had in a long, long time.
It is, it's one of the more complex ones that I've ever worked on, so it's been interesting. But I think we're rounding home base on that one. And then they'll be moving to the planning board from there for site plan review, and hopefully we can move on. Let's see, lastly, the zoning board of appeals removed some prior conditions that were placed on a project at 30 River Park that barred the placing of fill. The applicant was able to show to the zoning board of appeals that placing that fill would harm the neighborhood, and there would be a flood development permit. So that's been the activity at the planning board and zoning board, mostly just minor stuff. That's for October, that's not for November. All right. November is mostly more of the same, honestly, just small stuff. We don't have anything huge. I've also attached to the report a copy of our work plan for 2025. So this is a breakdown of how myself and all of my staff basically spend our time and what we intend to do in 2025. Most of it is spent on core planning functions, but we are anticipating, hopefully, funding the consolidated funding application to review our zoning plan, so we have a lot of time on that. We have a lot of time allocated to stormwater management because that's a huge topic in the town that we have to deal with, as well as a few other odds and ends in there. So please take a look at that. If you have any questions about how staff time is allocated or what those things mean, let me know. I'll be happy to sit down and talk that out. Lastly, I just wanted to update the board on a change of policy internally in our department. Currently, about 25% of our building permits are roofing permits, okay? And it requires quite a bit of permitting, so not just reviewing the design, but there's a number of inspections that have to happen, whether they're tearing off the underlayment, putting on ice and water, and shingles, or purlins for metal roofs. So there's a lot of inspections that happen on roofing projects, but because of the nature of that business, where they have to take off your roof and leave it exposed, it can be difficult for roofing contractors to get an inspection time because our office is very, very busy. The inspections pack out a week, 2 weeks ahead of time. So we've had some complaints from contractors and homeowners that they can't get inspections soon enough. So in order to mitigate that, we are now accepting inspections from third-party contractors, much like we do with electrical inspections. So on those instances, we had a couple of inspectors that have proven that they're certified to do those type of inspections and have been vetted by Scott. And a contractor pulling a roof permit has the option of paying a reduced building permit fee if they decide to use a third-party inspector and they can get their inspections faster.
So they would choose this in advance, right, as part of the application, and then that third party would do all the inspections?
Yes, yep. Very often they can go out and, have them pull up shingles and do a report to the satisfaction of Scott. So it seems to be working well. We've got a lot less complaints, a lot less violations. Because what really happens is folks need to get those roofs covered up if there's bad weather coming in, and it puts the contractors between a rock and a hard place. They kind of feel like they have to continue the work even though the inspection hasn't been done, so it's illegal, and it really puts everybody in a bind. So in order to sort of loosen up that choke point, we've decided to take that step. We think it's in the best interest of Lansing's homeowners. Honestly, it protects their investment, and we hope it'll work out.
So are you providing the applicant with like a list of inspectors, the way you do with the electrical inspection?
That's exactly how we're handling it. Yes, so we give them a list of...
These are the people you're happy with to do inspections for you?
Exactly, just like we do with electrical inspections.
Okay.
And section 108-5 of the code allows us to do that.
Any other questions for John?
Do we have to adjust our fee schedule for this by any way, or?
Well, actually, we probably should adjust our fee schedule to do that because we are allowing them to pay a reduced fee because the third-party contractor charges them.
Right.
So we will need to adjust our fee schedule.
Are we reducing it the amount that they're charging, or we're still getting something?
We're still getting something, but
Okay.
we're only charging $25 now for that because that's basically just our administrative, shuffle the paperwork around the fee.
Right.
Whereas most of our fees cover the cost of inspections,
Right.
right? Since we're not doing that, the third-party inspector they're more expensive. But it's just an option to get things when the contractor wants them. Whereas we're not really able to accommodate that level of service. We can't just do an inspection whenever we want one. Everybody's queued up,
Right.
Is it safe to say we're at the end of roofing season and you're not going to get any more applications?
No, it's not with this nice weather that we've been having.
So I guess my question is, Guy, should we amend that part of our fee structure now just to keep John in compliance?
Yeah, I think a simple motion saying that for applicants that elect a third-party roofing inspector, the fee can be reduced to $25. Something to that effect, and then we can adjust the schedule on paper to match.
Okay. Do I hear a motion for
So moved.
second?
Second.
Could you let me write it down? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, applicants that choose a third-party inspector, is that right?
Roofing inspector.
Roofing inspector.
Inspector.
Is this this is the fee you're already charging, right? We're just
So the building.
we're just putting it in writing?
We're memorializing.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
What would the fee normally be?
Joe, I can't say it's off my head.
Okay.
But thank you for taking the initiative on that. I think it's really important to make sure that, people's roofs are not exposed while they're waiting, And you have to, follow your list of people who need inspections. And I think really it's a good idea to sort of smooth that process along and make it easier for everybody, so.
Thanks, Lori. I do appreciate that. We realize that we kind of had a high number of enforcement actions and just sort of a lot of friction happening around that particular activity. And so as a department, we tried to think of what we could do to relieve that.
Yes.
That's what we came up with.
This looks like a really solid solution, so, great.
Are you caught up, Debbie? Okay.
Just if it helps, roofing inspections are a problem in almost every community that has to do them. This happens in Seneca, Schuyler, Cayuga. It's universal. In fact, there are some towns that have banned certain roofers from even putting roofs on in their town. So that's a solution that works because someone else is clearing the log jam and avoiding a problem that, I just don't want you to say we have a problem because this is everywhere with roofing.
Yeah, it is. It's a fast-paced business and they really have to make hay while the sun shines.
And I hear you're really trying to help our Lansing residents who are the ones that are going to get rained on.
Yeah.
Right, we don't want to leave them in a pinch while, we're pursuing enforcement action on contractors if their roof is wide open.
Yep.
So we want to make that safe.
So, do we have any more questions for John? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Do we need to vote on that?
I thought we did.
We did
Oh,
vote.
we did, okay, sorry.
Okay. Debbie, you're up next.
Okay, my report's in the packet, but I do have a couple things I would like to mention. And one is that we're working on the organizational resolutions for January, and mostly Jesse will probably be reaching out to all of you, committee people, and we need responses back pretty quickly because it is a January meeting. We have taxes in January, so we have to have this pretty well in place in December. So if you could please just respond as quick as possible to help us get you, but there's a lot to that, as I'm sure you all know.
What is the information you need from us?
Jesse will just send emails at whatever point, but like, some are like liaisons, what committees do you want to be on? Off the top of my head, sorry, I don't really know.
Okay, that's all right.
She said she asked me to
Okay.
kind of mention that.
I think if you go to the January minutes and look for your name, that's what they're looking at.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah. And, lots of things we don't need your decision on now, we don't need that till later, but some of the, where there's vacancies, or what committee do you want to be a liaison for, or whatever, those types of things we do need to know. Or if you're connected to a committee and somebody's not going to be there next year, we need to know those types of things, so. And the other thing is the hunting licenses. I might have mentioned this before, I think I did, about that they took away the printer that they supplied, and they took away the paper they supplied, and we now use our own printer, our own ink, and our own paper. And they said all along that maybe at some point we would be able to charge the person buying the DEC license fee, but that didn't come along until just now. It started on November 14th, and it's not a mandatory fee. It's something that I think the board needs to decide. It's $1 is what we're allowed to charge. And, we need input. Do you want to charge, do you not want to charge? The person buying the DEC license has the option of having it emailed to them. They can print it themselves. What we're finding is when we suggest that, everybody wants us to print it in the office, so we are printing it. Everyone takes at least 3 sheets of paper. To date, we have sold about 178 hunting licenses since August 1st. We did run a report today, and so far we've taken in a little over $16,000 in decal income this year, but $15,000 of that goes to DEC. So our profit is $800 for 2024, which we get to keep about 5%. So I'm just giving you these numbers so you can decide. We internally decided we weren't going to charge for the rest of this year. By the time they implemented this, most of the hunters have their licenses, the majority of them do. But if it's something that the town board wants to do, then, it's something that we could decide at the January organizational meeting that we're going to charge.
What do you recommend, Debbie? I mean, it seems like if we offered the $1 fee and gave people the option to skip the $1 fee by printing it themselves, that might be useful.
Right.
But, what do you think about that?
Some other clerks were in a town clerk group, and some other town clerks say, we're not going to charge, they pay for it in their taxes. Well, I'll just tell you, our office does a lot for people that are not in our town. And we've done a lot more this year. The town of Ithaca does not sell them. And Walmart in Ithaca no longer sells them. Dick no longer sells them. And they all say, go see the Lansing Town Hall. So we don't make much money on this at all. And we spend a lot of time on it. And now we're using our printer and our ink and our paper. And, at first I thought, no, what's $1? But the more I thought about it, if they have the option, they don't need to pay that $1. They could just say, email it to me. And they'll either print it themselves or find it on their phone or whatever. So I guess I'm sort of inclined to charge for it. And all of that $1 gets to stay with the town. None of that has to go to the DEC.
What are other towns doing?
We've only reached out to a few. It doesn't sound, Newfield Karen said they were going to talk about it. We haven't gotten back to her. Most of the other ones said that they're not going to charge, honestly. But I also don't know what their volume is. We were trying to find out what kind of a volume they do compared to ours.
If you email the certificate to the applicant, does it save you time in terms of printing and mailing and all that stuff?
Yeah, because we don't actually email it. Right in the DEC program, we can put in the person's email.
Right, and it sends it from there.
Right. and that sends automatically, I guess.
That sounds like an efficiency to me, so
It's-
that if introducing the fee and then allowing people to opt out, and then you don't have to end up printing it, and you can do it within the program, that seems,
It would be more efficient, because, when you go to print, you have to click on about 3 or 4 things to get to the print mode.
right.
And then you wait for it to print, and then you get it, and then you explain to the person, and you ask them to please sign here, and so on. So I hadn't really thought about that, Lori, but it definitely would save us time.
Right.
When you say print, that means go into the kitchen and pick it
No,
up?
actually, we have it hooked up to
Okay.
print to one in our office. Actually, we can print to, I guess, all of the ones in our office.
Yeah. So introducing the fee potentially creates an incentive to do the more efficient practice.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay.
If someone got a permit and asked for you to print it out, do they get it emailed to them as well?
They can. Right now, they can do that, and yes, we could still continue to do that.
Mhm.
I mean, we were encouraging people to do that,
Yeah,
because if they, the other thing is it's on this white paper, and if it gets wet, I'm not a hunter, but I'm thinking that could be problematic, and so we thought maybe if they got an email to them, they could reprint it themselves. If they come back and to have us reprint it, I believe the fee is $5, $10. There's definitely.
Replacement license?
Yes,
Yeah.
they'd have to get a replacement license, so it would be more. But
Okay.
so when do you need a decision from this board?
I'd say, so we could put it into organizational, so if you could let us know next month. We don't
Okay.
need to, I don't think we need to do a motion or resolution in December. I think we just need to have a decision, and then we'll put her in the January meeting, and that'll just cover it from then on.
Well, what are folks thinking? Do you want to wait a month and think about it, or you want to decide now?
I think it's a good idea.
I think it's a good idea. I think we could decide now.
I'm leaning towards charging the fee. I think
Okay.
I think people ask you for it if it's free, and if it costs them $1, they're going to decide whether they really need it or not.
Right,
Do you do the same thing with fishing licenses?
yes.
And they have to print it, or they get an email to themselves too?
That's the whole new, yes, that's the way it's going to be come this spring. It wasn't that way
Okay.
this past spring. But in some of these cases, if people have lifetime hunting licenses and they got them before a certain date, they have to come in here to get their doe tags, and their doe tags are free. So now we're not even taking in any revenue at all and printing, so. Okay. December, January. Okay, that's all I had for my report, unless anybody has any other questions.
Any other questions for Debbie? Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So I believe the youth services is in here.
Yes, they're in the
Library.
library.
And Dave Herrick is here. Do you want to give a report, Dave?
I will, thank you. In advance and an expectation that later on tonight we will consider the resolution for establishing the public hearing for the Peter Road Water Main Extension. I'm here to see if we might have any questions related to the engineer's report that we put together for this 580-foot, roughly 8-inch water main extension that will support the 3-lot Carter Road subdivision. I think we've dotted the i's, crossed the t's, and everything's pretty well teed up to be prepared for public comment if there is any. But tonight I'm here to see if you might have any questions regarding the project and how it's going to unfold.
I just wanted to say thank you for all your work on that, Dave, and wondering if you have any concerns about the project.
No, I don't. It's been 16 years in the making, so I'm happy to see that the connection between 2 dead ends on Teeter Road will now be joined up, and not just to support the project, but also to provide inherent benefits in the water distribution system. So I think it's all a positive. There'll be some disruption during construction. The main's going to go in within the road right of way, and there's alternate ways of, getting in and around the neighborhood, but it'll be, short-term disruption there. Other than that, once it's all together and folks, the new subdivision lots get hooked up, it'll be a good benefit for the neighborhood from a hydraulic perspective.
Other questions? I do have a question. I'm looking at this large project, and I know it's relatively small, but 8-inch pipes are a lot of water. How many of these types of things can we add on to our system before we hit our maximum ability to provide water to new customers?
Well, in this case, we're looking at 3 single-family residential properties and dropping the bucket relative to what the water system as a whole can provide. So there's many more units in water consumption that can be added to the system. This particular area of the town is actually supported by the Burdick Hill tanks that are at the top of Burdick Hill, as opposed to any of the other tanks within the town system, and there's millions of gallons of opportunity there. Not that it can be just taken and allocated indiscriminately, but when it comes to this project, there's more than enough capacity.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to deal with that resolution later in the meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you, and we'll get back to that shortly. I hope.
It's in part of the consent agenda, Joe.
Okay. So Mike's not here. I'm going to ask the board, I see John is here, and I know he wanted to speak at privilege of the floor. Do we want to let him speak now?
Sure.
John, did you want to speak to the board?
Great, sure, that'd be great.
Yeah. So I'm going to squeeze you in here, even though you're late to privilege of the floor.
That's really great of you, I appreciate it. So I'm John Dennis, the co-founder of CLEAN, Cuba Lake Environmental Action Now. You've heard of it from me before, and I think, Joe, you had informed me that there's a process if the town was to comment on. So just today, DEC announced that they had completed their review of Cargill's application to modify their mining permit to allow flooding of the S3 section of the mine, which is at the 6th level. It will hold about 360 million gallons of brine filled over about a 15-year period because they filled up the 4 level. But to comment on this, my understanding is that the town cannot, there's just not enough time in 30 days. So I talked to Jonathan Stercho, the deputy permit administrator in Region 7, and he said, well, if the town could just send a letter explaining why more time was needed to submit comments, that would be great. And we're willing to go before your Conservation Advisory Council to lay out, the reasons that we think it's a mistake not to have an EIS. Briefly, Cargill's had the mine for 54 years, never done an EIS yet, and one is required under seeker whenever there is a risk of a possibility of adverse environmental impacts. The 6-page document that I just received from Mr. Scotia at 5 p.m. today said they've seen a few moderate risks, but not enough to raise it to the level. And one other idea. There is a concept, I was reading the Seeker Handbook, 4th edition recently, there's something called critical environmental areas, and local agencies, and I'm assuming the town is one, can elect to designate a portion of your town as a critical environmental area. So if you did designate the water areas up to the center line of the lake, that would be something, an additional step that DEC would have to consider. And one last part, I hope I'm not pushing up on my 3 minutes, is Jonathan Sterco didn't send any email to anyone in the town of Lansing that I know of. He did send it to Caitlin Olson in town of Ulysses, Cuba Lake Watershed Network, Water Resources Council, etc. So he indicated that towns can be either interested parties or involved parties. An involved party is somebody who actually has a right to get involved in the process, but I'm wondering if Town of Lansing is one of those categories already?
Not that I'm aware of.
Well, it seems like we ought to be.
It's a question of whether we have a decision-making in the process of getting the permits going forward, and I'm not aware of any decision-making the town has to do on this particular action.
Okay.
So I think,
Did I get that right, Guy?
Essentially, an involved agency is one who has approval, permitting, funding, or decision-making authority. An interested agency is someone who doesn't have that direct authority, but is still part of that review process. The town could ask to be designated or listed as an interested agency, and that would at least get you copies of everything. But if you aren't designated by the lead agency as an interested agency, then the burden's on you to go forward. So, for example, if you needed a New York State highway permit, right, and you were working on obviously New York State DOT would be an involved agency. If what you were doing was also crossing a county highway, but it didn't require a permit, then the county would be an interested agency. So I agree, we're probably not either, but we can still ask to be designated and then get copies of everything that's happening and stay up on at least the procedure and where they are in the process.
Would there be anything that we could do as part of that process other than give comments that we could give anyway?
Right, that's what you would do. That's what the interested agency does, is they submit comments. You can do that as a member of the public generally, and the town is a jural entity, it has a legal existence. It can submit comments as well.
okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you, Guy. I've heard your name many times, I don't think we've actually met.
A couple times on the fly, but yeah.
Okay, all right, take care.
So I'm going to quickly ask, is the board interested in pursuing being an interested agency?
Yes. At least I am, and anybody else.
Other thoughts? You're kind of neutral? You're yes, okay. So the question would then be, who would be looking at these and making comments? And I was thinking sending it to the CAC. Would that sound appropriate to you, Guy? For them to look at?
I think that's what they do.
Okay.
Right, I think that's specifically what the type of thing they're supposed to review and advise the board about. So yes, I think that is the appropriate place for input to start, so yeah.
Okay, so how would we ask to be an interested agency? Would this board have to vote saying we'd like that, or we just all nodded, or?
You would just have somebody, either you or Ruth nominally, send a letter to DEC and ask to be an interested agency and to receive copies of documents. Most of them are publicly filed. The advantage of an interested agency is you usually get them in the mail before they're posted, because it takes a while to put 40,000 comments up on the web.
Okay.
And my understanding from listening as well is we need to submit a letter asking for more time to make comments rather than the 30 days. That was something else we were asked to do.
John, you can answer these questions.
Didn't you just ask us to do that?
So I got the sense from Mr. Sturchow that if he got a letter from the town of Lansing saying that you thought you would need more than 30 days to submit your comments, that would certainly carry a lot more weight than if an organization like Clean, was to sort of ask on your behalf.
Okay.
So we'd like to hear from the towns directly. And maybe, just maybe a question for you, Guy, would be, given that there's only, I think, $3.5 million of financial assurance to clean up, Cargill wants to sell the mine, they've had the sale, they want out, they've shut the third shift down. If they really are in the process of leaving, doesn't the town need to invest itself in the process more by saying, we'd like to be an involved agency? Because if they really
but the posting is under the mine land reclamation law, and that's exclusively state jurisdiction. The impacts would, of course, be in the town, and I think that's the standing that you'd have for interested agency. I mean, I think that's what it gets you, but I don't know that that makes you involved because you're not approving, permitting, or funding anything. So it sounds like their mined land reclamation permit bond is at least a decade out of date, maybe longer. Because what you could do in 1968 with 3.5 mil isn't the same today.
So it sounds like one letter that says, one, we need more, we'd like to be an interested agency.
Yes.
And one letter that says we need more time to comment.
I think those could be in the same letter, can they not?
Sure.
And then we also need a higher level of assurance. Did we ask for that?
I think that's what we do with our comments.
I think that would be a comment.
Okay. Does
Right,
that
you'd say that you
sound?
think their bond, reclamation bond and repair bond is insufficient in the event something were to fail or go wrong during closure or even post-closure. But that's exclusively state review. We're pretty much preempted out of it. That was one of the issues that came up in a lot of different mining issues, problems like gravel permitting.
Okay.
It's like, well, we don't have a say in it, but we can comment and hopefully they'll listen.
So,
May I ask
Sure.
a question? When I go to the environmental notice bulletin and look up, there's some thousands of seeker reviews that end up in negative decks. And most of the time when they are positive decks, it's when a local entity, an IDA or a town, has said, we want to be lead agency. And the town, is right there and they say, we see some adverse risks. So the DEC seems to be sort of genetically, adverse to doing positive declarations. So I think with the SHAP 4 project, the town of Lansing could have raised their hand and said, we'd like to be lead agency on SHAP 4, and you could have asked for the first time in 50 years for there to be an EIS on the mine. The other salt mine in New York State's done 2. They're safer, they're more productive. So I just, my final thought would be to consider becoming an involved agency because you probably do want to be lead agency on some things having to do with the mine. One of them would be reclamation at closure. There's no closure plan at the moment, and unless you know whether flooding is a good thing or a bad thing, you may be watching a lot of interesting economic options going down the drain literally because there are no more voids that could be used for alternatives. Anyway, enough, and thanks so much. Bye.
thank you, John.
Thank you.
So I will get together with Ruth and put together a letter. And then we'll send this to the CAC for them to keep an eye on, keep us up on it.
Okay.
Does that sound fair?
Yeah, I think you'd want them to provide you with at least some input as to what their comments are, so you have a basis upon which to make comments.
Okay.
The main reason the DEC will say, put in requests, is because they may want to keep the public comment period open longer. And if they get enough requests to do that, then usually they'll extend the comment period. So this is more of a mathematical request, even though there's substance under it. And the comment about the town becoming lead agency, you can't just become a lead agency.
No.
And if more than one entity that is an involved agency says, I want to be a lead agency, the DEC decides. So regardless of what happened on Shaft 4, we weren't the lead agency, and it sounds like there's already a lead agency on this project, so I'm not sure that we're going to reverse 14 years of seeker just because we decide we'd like to become an involved agency. It's not going to happen. Mainly because, besides the logic of it, we're not an involved agency.
Any more questions or comments on this?
I do have one question. Typically, when we've asked, not me, the board has asked Ruth to write a letter, there's been a motion authorizing her to do that. Do we need to do that, or?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, I know, I'm asking for a better answer, because I don't have one.
I think that there are some, sort of like the little note I'm going to hand Debbie later about the organizational resolutions. There's a lot in there that's just been carried forward, and a lot of it doesn't need to be there. And it's just like resolutions. The town can discuss all sorts of things in between meetings. What you can't have is a meeting. So there's all sorts of things that you can agree that the supervisors should do this, or agree that a certain board member should go on and examine this project or this issue, and it doesn't require a resolution. That's just day-to-day agency management. If you get to the point where, we want to, I don't know, authorize spending $70,000 to fund a giant seeker challenge against DEC, that would require a resolution.
Or I would say if the board kind of is troubled, wants something done, and the town supervisor doesn't want to do it, we might do it by resolution to make sure it gets done. But in this case, I see why we would need a resolution.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just wanted to be sure.
I just think there's some holdover stuff like that, including the organizational resolutions, that they're just there because that's how it's always been done, and that's not necessarily how it should be done.
Okay.
So I can start hitting some of those with a pen if it'll help Jesse.
It would help a lot.
Can I go with the eye and like sort of-
Get a pie, a little coffee.
All right, let's move on to the consent agenda. We got 10 items. So Judy, can I get you to start reading the first 3?
Hold on, I gotta find them. Motion authorizing Recreation Department part-time employee clothing allowance. Resolution establishing the 2025 water rates, and resolution establishing the 2025 sewer rates for the Cherry Road Sewer District.
Lori, you want to do the next 3?
Sure. Resolution accepting organizational chart. Resolution declaring excess equipment for Highway Department 2005 International Truck. Resolution declaring Radall backhoe and excavator as excess property and authorizing disposal for sale.
Go ahead.
Resolution approving the field staff classification and wage scale for 2025 through 2027 and extending certain benefits of the collective bargaining agreement to some non-collectively bargained positions. Resolution and public interest order setting public hearing for Teeter Road subdivision, I don't know what CWD is.
Consolidated Water District.
Okay, improvement project. Do you want to do the last?
And the resolution approving audit and budget modifications. We didn't get a supervisor report. I guess it was done, but we haven't had Ruth able to review it. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
The supervisor report has been completed. Ruth just hasn't been able to go over it. Okay. So do I have a motion to approve the consent?
I'll move the
Judy,
consent.
and a second?
Second.
Okay, and that's Lori.
Judy Drake,
Aye.
Lori Hemmings,
Aye.
Christine Monte,
Aye.
Joseph Wetmore.
Aye. Okay, we're moving on to the resolutions. Resolution A, resolution approving Highway Department purchase of snowplow for delivery in 2026. I guess that's your resolution, right, Mikey?
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions or
We should have the motion. and
motion
second.
first? Okay, do I have a,
So moved.
I'll second.
okay, now you're up, Mikey. Does anyone have any questions about this? My only question is 2026, you're actually going to get it then?
We hope, I mean, this is what we typically do, right, to try to get it in line. It used to be where it was, about 13 months, maybe 12, before we got the truck in now. I mean, we're hoping it's 18. The last time we did this, we should have received the truck in 24, and that truck, we will probably receive in February or March of 25. So 23, 24, 25, it's trying to get in line with every other municipality.
Okay.
So is this in our 26 budget? I'm just trying to follow all this through.
This is in our 25 budget, and it's stating that the truck will not be paid, even though there's money allocated 25, half of it, until 26.
Okay.
So if
Just-
the comptroller's office has, because this is a problem for everybody.
We know, yeah.
So what they are recommending is that we create a capital fund for this money, so rather than put in reserves, or rather than encumber it,
Right.
If it goes another year, you can't encumber it again.
Right.
So they're recommending just creating a capital fund. So that's what we'll do if we don't get it in 2025, 2026. We'll put the
So we're basically just putting the money aside and leaving it there until we're able to pay for the truck because they're able to ship it.
Yes, exactly.
Got it.
Right, it's a solution instead of using the equipment reserve,
Right.
something
Yeah.
between that and encumbering.
Yep,
Because
that sounds good.
reserve is, it's a process.
Do we have to do a capital fund for each truck, or do we do one and keep putting the money in, and as the trucks come in?
I don't think we have to do it for each truck.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
It makes sense, if the log jam ever clears, right, then we can go back to what we used to do. I mean, it's still coming from the funds that I'm requesting,
Mhm.
and just be allocated. I think probably more to Judy's point is, the board has not approved funds for 26, right? In good faith, I'm assuming that the board will want to move forward with this plan, and agree to budget the other half of that money for 2026 budget.
Well, just for my curiosity, Guy, what happens in 2026 and you have a crazy board that doesn't want to buy the truck? We're buying a truck now for 2026. What if in 2026 the board says, no, we don't want to allocate funds for this?
Okay.
What happens?
Yeah,
Right, it's,
The order's been placed, so there probably would be some cost for termination, maybe not. But that's always true of everything you do. You adopt zoning in 2025, and the next board comes along in 2026 and says, we repeal it.
Okay.
You actually can't bind a future board on some things, but something like a truck that's on a regular replacement schedule, I would find it surprising if people didn't want quality emergency vehicles servicing their roads in winter in the Finger Lakes. But you're right, you never know.
Okay.
Well, and this resolution just strengthens
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
aspect,
yeah.
and I think.
Mary Ellen can put it in the budget.
It's
Assume
that they won't be paying, I'm sorry, to tell you, the town will not be paying until 2026.
Right.
Okay.
Any more discussion? Okay. Is this a roll call?
Judy Drake,
Aye.
Lori Hemmings,
Aye.
Christine Montag,
Aye.
Joseph Butler.
Aye. Resolution B, approving purchase,
Can I just, I'm on, is there something coming in '25 that's already been in this process?
This is for 25. This will be the truck for 25. Right, it's super confusing.
I was just wondering, are we receiving something in '25 that maybe we ordered in '23 or '24?
2023, we're receiving in 2025.
Okay. So we are getting a truck next year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. I have a complete chart to keep us straight on.
Yeah, I want,
All right.
Yeah.
And was that money set aside, or is that something that we have to pay for?
The prior board already approved that purchase in November of 2022. And I've only been sitting, waiting for the truck to,
Oh, so we still have the money?
still have the
We
money.
hadn't covered it.
We hadn't, okay.
but don't we end up sometimes having to approve a little bit more because the truck price changed between then and now?
Well, that's the whole point of trying to buy in early with this particular truck. The trucks haven't increased. When we lock in, they haven't gone up.
That's good.
Good. All right.
So on to the Volvo wheeled excavator for the highway department. Do I hear a motion for that?
So moved.
Second? Did you hear that? Second?
Oh, I thought you were second.
No. So is this in the budget, or is this,
This is in the budget.
okay?
Okay.
Any questions from the board?
If it's in the budget, you know.
It's in the budget. Again, I can send a letter, of intent that the board has agreed to buy this, which holds that 90-day price. That 90-day price includes, $20,000 savings offer, through that company where we're purchasing the equipment. And the excess equipment goes along with this, right? And we're replacing one piece of equipment for three. So, to me, that's a good thing, trying to be a little more efficient. And I asked the board if I could, kind of like I did with the one dump truck, right? If I could sell on Auctions International, get the most money we can, or if it's the trade-in. I already have the trade-in value that they offered, I think a couple of the pieces are a little bit low, so that's what I was asking the board for.
Any more questions or comments? Guess we're ready.
Judy Drake,
Aye.
Lori Cummings,
Aye.
Christine Montag,
Aye.
Joseph Wetmore.
Aye. C, resolution urging governor to sign Climate Change Superfund Act. Do I hear a motion for that?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
So we're just asking her to sign something that's on her plate to sign.
It's been on her plate for almost 6 months.
Okay, and then, so how does this affect us?
How does this affect
Like,
us?
do we get money out of this? I'm just trying to understand this.
My memory on this, let me flip over to the page, is that it creates a fund to help mitigate the issues that come about as a result of climate change. And so it's not going to necessarily affect us unless we have problems resulting from climate change, in which case there will be money available to help us with it. We passed a resolution in April asking the legislature to approve this, and this is just the follow-up asking the governor to now sign it. Any more questions, comments?
Judy Drake,
Aye.
Lori Cummings,
Aye.
Christine Montag,
Aye.
Joseph Wetmore.
Aye. On to board member reports. Judy, you're up first.
My report's in the packet,
Okay.
so.
Any questions about Judy's report? On to Lori.
My report's in the packet as well, I believe. Yep.
Any questions on Lori's report? Christine?
Mine's in the packet.
Any questions? Okay. Mine got in after the packet, but everyone's received it. Did anyone have any questions? I do have one thing that I want to bring up. The planning board asked that the town look at a resolution that would create a specific chart of some kind for when buffers are done, what kind of plantings they are, what sizes, what kind of plants were used, so that it isn't just this, pick everything you can get at the local nursery, but have a little bit more care as to what goes in on these plantings. Is the town board interested in potentially sending this to the CAC to kind of come up with some ideas of what would be appropriate plantings to choose from or to prioritize? John, you can comment on this if you would like to.
Is this just on town land, so?
No, this is when a developer comes and they want to build a dollar store, and the board says, you will put a buffer here of some kind of plant. And now becomes the discussion of what plant gets put in there, and the questions are two things. What species is it, and how big is it? And it usually becomes a long discussion back and forth between the planning board and the developers, who are both saying, well, this is what I can get from my landscaper, this is what they say is best. The planning board says, well, what about these? And it starts to be a whose idea is best. And so the idea is to come up with a list so that everyone's kind of looking at the same list as opposed to two different lists.
But wouldn't it matter, like, where the place is, it seems like it would be kind of a case-by-case basis of what the situation is around that development.
I'd have to agree. I mean, full disclosure, I'm a New York State certified nursery, so.
Why don't you come up to the mic?
I worked in the landscape industry a few years ago running a greenhouse, so What I would say is, maybe minimum sizes, the diameter caliper of trees and things like that might be appropriate. I would probably stay away from species. Specifically, there are a lot of people who tell you that they know plant material, and there are very few people who know plant material. So the other thing I would mention is you want to avoid creating monocultures in the town, whereby we've got a short list of plants, and then that's all that we plant. Because when you have blight or disease, or they prove to be genetically weak plants, such as the Bradford pear, which is planted everywhere and they just blow up when they hit maturity, you want to try to avoid that. So I think it would be probably best be served allowing people to make decisions about what is available. Where are they getting it from? Is it cold hardy? The region that you get something from matters, a lot. So I would tend to think that some individual creativity would be preferred. Specifying sizes, that makes good sense to me. You don't want to necessarily have little tiny whips planted that take a decade to get somewhere. The mortality rate on those is very high. And you want something substantial, with as far as species, maybe something like designating native species perhaps, but that's, you can't really sell invasives anymore.
So would you suggest this would be part of the zoning redo altogether, or something that should be worked on separately?
I would suggest maybe not even worrying about it, Joe.
Okay.
I think we've kind of got enough on our plate.
I'm bringing forward what the planning board asked me to bring back to this board, so.
Yeah. I would suggest limiting things maybe to just size and plant in areas that are important.
Okay.
That's me.
So, okay. Does that, I'm assuming you guys do inspections of the building, and are they meeting the qualifications of the planning board's determination that that's something you're looking at? If they're supposed to be planting X number of trees or something, that's something you guys are checking off, and is it done or is it not done?
You need to go out and count, trees and plantings and things like that. Yeah, absolutely. That's something that.
Like if they all die, that kind of comes back to they still need to fix that in the
That's
future.
correct.
Yeah, so there's ramifications to kind of.
Right, I think the planning board's disappointed in some of the projects that have come by, the storage lockers over by the car wash on East Shore Drive. They were hoping for a real buffer, and we're talking about pine things that are 10 years old and they're this high. And they're feeling like that wasn't what they thought of when they thought of a brush buffer of some sort. And so I think they're looking for a little bit stronger to be able to not have that happen to them again.
Okay.
I think you can send it to the Conservation Advisory Committee and see what they come up with. I think a good task for them, but I think the board should take that with a grain of salt. I wouldn't want to prescribe what everybody's planning.
Well, I think my recollection from being on the planning board was, some discussions that got really fierce about whether or not particular trees were invasive because they were listed on Tompkins County's potentially invasive list, and other people said, I plant those all the time, they're great, and,
The answer is
why?
They are invasive.
Yeah. So, I definitely think the sizes and maybe some growth guidelines or, expectations about what size it's going to be in a couple of years. Can we do stuff like that?
That's no.
No, because you can't predict how it will grow.
Yeah.
All right, fine.
So you could specify the sizes of plants when they're
Planted.
put in, yeah.
Okay.
So shrubs come in gallon sizes, trees
Right.
come in caliper sizes.
Mhm.
Those type of things.
I think there's a recommended sweet spot of you don't want to get too big a tree because they get stunted as a result of moving them, and you don't want a twig. But there's a mid-range there that people kind of aim towards.
Couple inch and caliper, 2-inch caliper
Yeah.
trees.
Something like that.
You can specify whether they're, natives, New York natives, those type of things, those are really nice. And they should be hardy to the zone.
Yeah.
But what we have asked is that landscaping plans, are submitted by landscape architects, but that's not something that the planning board really heavily enforces, so.
Right, but I could definitely see it pushing for native plants because, again, they're going to be hardy to the area. We're not going to have the invasive problem, and
Yeah.
we should be encouraging native plants in general. So what are people's thoughts? Do you want to send this to the CAC? Do you want to?
I think so, I mean,
Is there, do you know from like the Planning Federation and stuff, if there's any municipalities that already have guidelines that we can use versus the Conservation Advisory Committee to just
You know,
choose?
I'm sure there are, Judy. I'm sure that I've run across things, but I can't think of anything at hand. So that may be charged of the committee as well, like maybe look at other people's research, you know.
Yeah.
There are guidelines out there, you know, there's New York State handbook on, you know, urban trees, right? That give you some ideas. There's some things out there that are useful, but I'd hate to see people specifying that, you know, what particular annuals you need to
Yeah,
plant and
yeah.
that kind of thing.
Do you already specify, like, let's say there's electric lines going overhead that whatever you plant can't get to a height, that you'd then have to chop it to bits to go around the
So we
electric
don't
lines?
specify that, and honestly, there's not a lot of people, depending on who's making that plan, that necessarily have that knowledge, you know, to understand that some trees don't reach 30 feet in height, and those are the ones that you should pick, or other trees have a high salt tolerance, that's what you want in your parking lot, right? So, you know, right now, it's just, you're fortunate to have staff, you know, you plant Mason Malesso, he's an educated landscape architect myself, you've got staff who has some understanding of plant material, that's what happens right now.
But that doesn't mean the developers listen to you.
Right.
And that's where I think having some kind of a list to say, or some criteria, may not be a list, it may be criteria to
I think
say.
criteria would be great.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
All right, criteria it is.
okay, so is the general thought is we'll send this to CAC and ask them to create some criteria for plantings.
Yeah, that would dovetail nicely with the zoning application.
Okay, that sounds great. Okay, thank you. Okay, we're on to our work session. Does anyone want to take a break before we go to work, or shall we go straight into work? Go to work. Increase income limits on tax exemptions. That's in your packet. That's something that came from Jay Franklin. Thoughts, questions, and I will note that if we want to, we can have Jay come in and talk to us about this. He's always very informative and very willing to come and talk to us about this and any other property tax exemption possibilities.
I can just say that I'm just generally in favor of, you know, not leaving the amount set at the amount they, you know, even people on Social Security get a little bit of an increase, so, you know, keeping up with that is nice.
Yeah, I agree.
Debbie, are there any, or Mary Ellen, any that you guys are concerned of? That,
I mean, at the bottom of page 1, in the last paragraph, it just states that, you know, based on the new scale we're in place for 2025, I think an additional 6 people would see exemptions. And it's not drastic. It's not drastic at all.
Yeah,
but it could really help those 6 people.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean, the other people that would have to pay for the lost revenue for those 6 people, it looks like it's a 43-cent increase.
That seems awfully reasonable.
43 cents.
So we'd ask for a resolution you can put together for December's meeting on this?
Well, we have to have a public hearing.
It would be a local law,
Okay,
because it's in your code, so.
okay. So schedule a public hearing for December, and let's put together a resolution or a local law for this. And who's going to write that? Would Jay write that for us, or would we write that?
I don't think Jay's ever written our local laws.
Lots of people have.
Guy, do you want to scribble up a local law on this?
Sure.
So I guess, let me just add, are any of these new to us, or these ones that we're already doing, that we're just increasing the value?
We do have the senior and disabled in our existing exemption charts, and it looks like all this is actually doing is increasing the amount that you can claim as an exemption. So it looks like we'd simply be updating our charts and not adding new exemptions. But I do believe we do give the Cold War veterans exemptions and a couple others in Lansing as well.
So do we need a local law that says we're just updating this, or?
It's a modification of our current local law.
Of our code, yeah.
Okay.
So I think Guy knows how to write.
If it turns out that we don't need a local law, then I'm not going to write one. But
think
you
you're
know,
right.
I write 3 or 4 of them every month. Having one less would be joyous.
Copy and paste.
It doesn't always work that way, but I think it would be just a one-pager that would replace the exemption charts. That's what I think it would be. But until I go through this with a little more, I want to make sure that that's all it would be.
Okay.
But that's what it looked like when I gave it a quick read-through before the meeting. Like when Jay first sent it, or actually when Deb's office first sent it.
Okay, so just so we're clear, so at the December meeting, we'll have a public hearing.
We'll have a public hearing.
And hopefully if Guy can get the local law before then, because we need to have it before then. And,
Yeah, you shouldn't schedule the public hearing until the local law's in hand.
Right.
But you only need 5 days' notice of a public hearing under the municipal home rule law. And I think the newspaper wants 5 days' notice to get it published, so 10 days. And the meeting's the 20th? No. 18th. Yeah.
Okay. Have more time?
We'll touch base with you and see.
You have until March.
That's what I was wondering. Can we do this in January or something that?
Because if you adopt it, well, you could adopt it in December, but unless they process it by the 31st, you're going to run into the same problem as last time. It's sort of like a problem I had today with Social Security Administration.
So we really need to get this adopted in December?
No, we can adopt it in January.
No, you have to adopt before the assessment date in March, I believe.
This isn't for the taxes that you're going to be collecting in January.
No.
This is for.
This is for 2026.
Okay.
People have to
They have to
sign
turn
up for
income.
exemptions by March 1st. So if we don't adopt it until, let's say the 20th of February, that doesn't give people really,
They already have the exemptions, it'll just be a different amount that they're exempt.
there would be some new people probably, or maybe. I
Yeah,
don't
but we got
know.
my understanding is we have the categories already, we're just changing the amount in each of those categories.
Right, but some people,
Will be new because they will now qualify.
right, is what I.
Right, but they would qualify regardless of whether or not we changed our exemptions. We don't change anything that they're doing.
Right? Oh, okay, yep.
I think that was what Joe was saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll apply and they'll get a happy bonus that their application grew in '26.
Okay.
Are there I don't understand what all the different pages, like, how are they different from each other?
I think some of
It's
them
the
are county.
information that came from the assessment office.
I think he gave county-wide and then Lansing.
Doesn't he address different?
The first page is kind of a cover sheet, but it's really good, nuts and bolts.
Yeah, I think the first page is at the county level, and then he starts talking, bringing it down to us.
So I guess there's low-income, disabled individuals and seniors, there's veterans exemption. Is there anything else that I'm not seeing? I didn't understand the differences between
I
the,
think what we'd like to do
Tables.
is sometime in February, have Jay come in and give us a whole exemption rundown, because there's a bunch of new board members who haven't been through one of those, to say, here's what the different exemptions are. Does the town want to consider changing any of them?
Could maybe do it in December, so then you could do all the changes in January with one local law? As opposed to doing a local law, then having him come in and then changing it again?
I hear your logic there, Guy.
No, I'm just saying, if you want to cause confusion, that would be the way to do it.
Okay. I think we're going to ask Jay to come to our meeting and do the exemption rundown.
How long does that normally take, just out of curiosity?
I've seen them do it in 10 or 15 minutes,
Okay.
and then an hour's worth of questions.
Oh, of course.
There's like 50 different exemptions the towns can do, and they all have their own quirks to them. And so he kind of gives you a quick of, here's all the exemptions, here's the ones most towns do, and then starts, here's the ones your town is currently doing, and then we go from there.
Okay.
And if I recall, he has a chart that tells you, like, that lays them all out. I believe it's online at the assessment office, if you want to preview what they are.
If you write him a letter, he'll send, or an email, he'll send it to you really quickly. He responds very quickly.
Okay.
But I will send Jay a quick note saying, hey, can you come to our December meeting and do the rundown?
But people have to apply for these, right? So if you don't know that they exist and they don't know that the exemption is there, then do people need to be informed that these are available? And maybe in the information sphere, we'll end up getting 20 more and...
That's a great question for December.
Okay, so now, if I understand this right, Joe's going to ask Jay to come to the December meeting?
Yes.
And then the January meeting, we would do a public hearing on the local law, have the local law ready, do a public hearing and the resolution for the January meeting.
That's the current plan, subject to
Okay.
obviously changes.
Okay.
And then Guy's going to wait until the December meeting to figure out whether we...
I mean, I can start on the pieces that we know that you're going to go forward.
Right, okay, yeah.
Okay.
And just in case if you decide not to make any changes, then it's plug and play.
But everybody here seems to be agreed on the changes that Jay is recommending, at least,
Right.
is that,
You may want to do more. You may want to add exemptions that we don't exempt right now.
okay.
I guess it's possible you might want to subtract some that we currently have, but that's generally not the direction things go.
No.
Okay,
Joe, can I interject something into your work session?
sure.
Ruth had sent a text that asked that the town board authorize her to go ahead and do a designation letter to OCA, so the potential nominee for the vacancy in judge can qualify for his training. OCA says they'll do that. I don't think you need a formal resolution to do it. You just need to, in case he's required to show a letter to get to the training, since he hasn't been appointed.
I thought we did that 2 weeks ago.
I'm just telling you what I got.
I see that. I'm pretty sure we did that 2 weeks ago, but everyone's still in agreement that we would like our judge to be trained.
Yes.
I
Okay,
think
so-
we need something a little more formal, because and here's why. John Howell was talking to me about this, because his training is beginning of December.
Yes,
And he won't be appointed until
January.
January.
right.
So we wouldn't be able to reimburse him for the December without something a little more,
You want a resolution from the board?
something that's a little bit more formal than you say,
Okay.
yeah, here's,
More formal than a letter?
no, that's fine, the letter's fine.
Right. I think you're on a slippery slope if you start doing resolutions, because there's no vacancy.
Right,
And
exactly.
it looks like you're pre-appointing. He could
Right.
get partway through the training and say, forget this. Or it could turn out that that's not who you end up appointing.
Right.
Any
right.
number of reasons can come into play, so
Right.
I'm a bit reticent about a resolution, but if that's,
Oh, no, I agree with you. I'm not saying resolution. I'm thinking more like you said, like a letter or an offer letter or something that we can point to say, we agreed that this is where we're going with this.
But I thought we agreed to
I
that
think
last
But
meeting.
Ruth wasn't at that meeting, so she doesn't necessarily,
Is it in the?
You missed it too.
No, it's not in the minutes because it was during executive session.
Yeah.
okay,
Well, we talked about which person to appoint, but,
okay.
But I thought we also just agreed that the letter for the training.
okay, I don't remember.
Okay,
Somebody just needs to
So-
know that that was already discussed.
okay, so it's discussed and we're agreed that Ruth can write the letter?
Yeah.
I see nodding heads. Do we need to do anything more?
I didn't know about that.
Okay, that's all
It
good.
was executive session.
Yep, I understand.
Should it say that we're agreeing that we would reimburse him, the person that we're sending to training? Because isn't that your question?
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
no, just that
Okay.
the intent was to hire. him.
Well, Ruth is responding saying that he was chosen in November 6th, and my reply is, no, you can't have an appointment until there's a vacancy.
We discussed the candidates in executive
We have a
session.
preferred
I
candidate.
actually learned who it was from the court office, not from the town or the town board, so, you know, I got all sorts of balls in the air on this one.
We're running a little short with Ruth being out of the room.
Yep.
Do we need to do anything more?
If you've already authorized that letter, then I think you've already authorized that letter. I think that, from my understanding from discussing with John, he just needed something from the town so that OCA would say, okay, this is the designee, not the appointee.
I think that's fine.
Okay. I think this is Dave coming up next. A review of draft summary referral from the town board for development of final water, sewer, and stormwater committee changes to operational guidance and rules. Is that-
Not so much, but I'm part of the group.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure what that is, so somebody help me.
Ruth had asked Don and myself to review I guess the
Do you wanna-
policies and procedures for WISC, water, water,
Okay,
stormwater committee.
I got it.
Right,
No, you.
the town code basically says these new committees in Chapter 7, the town is required to sort of basically go through the process for them, right, to bring them into the new code. And some of them were already in good shape, and some of them were completely reclassified and don't have chairs, don't have charges, have work they need to do, and it's unclear. So WISC was one of them, which used to be the Water Board, then the Water and Sewer Board, then the Water and Sewer Advisory Board, then the Water and Sewer and Group of Work. Now it's the Water, Sewer, and Stormwater Committee. So Ruth asked me to look at the prior charges and policies that the board had reviewed, create a checklist of the things that were needed under the code, such as does it need a liaison? Does it need a chair? Or how often should it be submitting written reports to the board? How often should it be meeting? So I went through all that stuff and created that checklist, and it's just a checklist. It's something you're referring to them. If you want to add to it or take off it, you can. Then they're going to presumably meet, go through it, come up with guidelines, policies, recommendations, designating a chair. That's not binding on the board, but it's just who the committee selected, so that by the organizational meeting, they can hit the ground running in 2026 or 2025. Sorry, I'm a year ahead. It's the truck thing, yeah. So this was the list I came up with, looking at 3 or 4 different policies, one of which had 2 or 3 iterations, and then what are the requirements for committees and governmental bodies in Chapter 7 of the town code. And so this is just distilling that into bullet points, like give us advice on this, give us advice on that.
Do we need to adopt this or something?
No, well, you can edit it if you wish, but I think the plan was to just have the board understand what questions and what charges may be going to WISC, and you would refer this to them, then the committee would submit back something like a report or a resolution that you could then adopt and set policies for things like outside users, how often they have to meet, who the chair will be designated in 2021 or 2025. And I believe Ruth is the liaison, and presumably may continue as liaison, because that's water or sewer districts and to a limited extent stormwater districts. And one of the other things that's happening is that the committee is shrinking down back to its original core members, because it got up to like 15 people. And it was doing public hearings and stuff like that, which it clearly should have never done legally or otherwise. So we're trying to get it back to the core advisory group, and if you want to see where some of that language came from, it's actually in the Consolidated Water District Code, the Water Board. You're looking at the feasibility of a project from a planning, a fiscal, and other limited perspectives. And it's just to advise the board, here's what we find. So you'd get a report akin to what happened with Water District 3, where the cost is well over 200% of the comptroller's threshold, and a sick project with 6 miles of main wasn't going to be able to work.
So this is kind of the result of looking at this person who came here to get a referral to Wasabi, or whatever it's called now, and saying this is a silly process because we always refer them because we don't know enough to make a decision, and try to cut out some of that redundant work. This is
Yeah, I could clarify a lot more, but I don't think it's relevant to what we need to do here. Part of the problem is there was at one time a simple process, and that simple process, that was a forward-facing one-page document that most everyone understood was turned into a 2- to 3-page document detailing in exactitude internal town procedure, and then none of the applicants understood it, and it didn't work.
And the wrong departments were involved, and it was a struggle internally, and there was a struggle for people trying to figure it out. So this is trying to clean up something that was many hands making.
Okay.
And just making it streamlined and getting back to the roots of what it's supposed to do.
So what's the next step for this board to take?
Refer that to the committee and ask for their input by the December meeting.
Thoughts?
That would give you as a board time to get it ready for January.
Okay.
I suggest that we refer this to the committee for comments.
Yes.
Your resolution, or we just all nod and say that?
No.
Just
you
nod.
Nod, please.
Yeah, it's an internal administration, we don't, when you approve the policy, that'll be a resolution.
All right, good job.
Okay.
Okay, I would like to do a quick executive session to discuss a certain personnel and possible changes in their compensation.
Personnel history of a particular
Yeah,
person.
that one.
That one? Okay.
And staff is welcome to stay for that. Do I hear, I've got a motion, wait a second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.